You can be tough for a moment, but you can be fit for a lifetime. We have football coach, we have basketball coach, we have physical therapists, we have trainers, but no one works on the most important muscle of the body. The biggest muscle of the body is your mind. I wanted to create the rock in Roanoke that creates the ripple effect of mental health support across Virginia. Our slogan is to help athletes recognize their mental health needs, maximize their mental performance, and utilize the skills on and off the field.
Hello and welcome to Around the Way with EJ. I'm your host, Eric Johnson. Very excited about our guest coming up this week. Everything is good and for a good reason. You'll understand why in just a second here. Joined here by Daniel Brooks. He's a Franklin County High School graduate who went on to study at Hampton University, later got his master's in social science at Radford University, and in 2019 he created Good Counsel LLC. I told you good would come in handy, so just follow me there. But nonetheless, Mr. Brooks, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me, man. It's beyond a pleasure. Excited to be here to hang out with you this evening.
Indeed. Now, you're not a new face to necessarily the TV airwaves, especially on our airwaves. We've had a few events that we've seen you at in the past, but just give us a brief rundown. Good Counsel LLC, how did that come about and your passion for it?
So in the onset of the pandemic, early pandemic, you know, we had this vision and this idea and this goal of how can we make healing possible, which is our tagline and our slogan with Good Counsel. Then here comes the pandemic. So we were pushed into, the need was shown during the pandemic. So from there, we started to help people get connected to mental health services. We started to educate the community about mental health needs. This is during the pandemic when everything is virtual. And then from there, we got into more of our innovative ways of how can we bring therapy to the masses and make it innovative and put therapy in motion. So that's where Motivate the Game was brought about. So Good Counsel is 3 parts. We help people, we connect individuals to therapy, we educate individuals about mental health, and we innovate things within the mental health world.
I was going to say, man, what you have here is very unique. And really, in terms of Good Counsel, you mentioned you want to bridge that gap between mental health providers and the community. Explain a little bit of that stigma with mental health, because we're just kind of tapping into that really as a community and really as a people as a whole these days.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and fortunately, COVID shined light on a lot of the things that a lot of us were dealing with, right? So when the distractions were taken away within our lives and day-to-day lives, things we were doing, we were forced to be with ourselves, right? So with that, it led to a lot more anxiety, a lot more depression. But unfortunately, the way that traditional therapy and mental health support has been viewed has been, I'm going to sit on a couch, I'm going to talk to this person that I don't know. And a lot of our homes, don't you talk to nobody, right? Don't tell our business, right? So it's been talked about from early age and since we were kids, or even we don't even know what it means, right? We don't even understand what therapy or mental health is. So that's where a lot of the stigma comes from, is the miseducation and the misunderstanding about what it is and how it can benefit us. So what we try to do is try to bridge that gap, help to educate first. If we don't educate, then no one's going to understand. So we try to bring education to the mental health world and what it looks like, and then we go into how we can help different types of support, different types of services that you can benefit from.
I love it, because looking at your website, you mentioned so many different ways and avenues in which you try to do that with the folks. And Motivate the Game is one of them, right? So you have that, Motivate the Game and mentoring, unique training, utilizing mental health techniques, absolutely, and then character building aspects also, which is huge, because all we've heard recently about athletes is the mental health. So how timely has this been for you in the organization?
Man, it's been a godsend. I heard one of my mentors one time said that when your mission meets your moment, right? So our mission was given a while ago, and then we didn't know, fast forward, that COVID was going to shine its ugly head and we were going to be pushed into action. But it's been super timely, but we've been able to just lead with healing, lead with hope, lead with support, while we're able to bring young people, bring athletes into the fold while they're training for sports. So it's been an amazing opportunity that we've just been perfectly positioned to be able to help kids not only with mental toughness, but what we call mental fitness, right? So we're mental fitness. When you think about fitness, it's a long term, it's a life change. It's something that you can be tough for a moment, but you can be fit for a lifetime, right?
True, that is true. That is huge. And I just reflect back to, here at River's Edge just a few months ago, the special combine you had for the kids in the area. You literally had a little bit of everybody. We had some Magna Vista players, we had some PH players out here, Fleming players, Northside. How big was that to hold that for those guys? Because they hadn't hit the field in who knows how long at that point.
Absolutely. That was actually our second one, right? So being able to do that and being brave enough to kind of put it on, because what we saw during the pandemic is that sports are more than sports for these athletes, right? And so often we think that's all that is, but what we had to realize that our young people were dealing with COVID the same way we were, right? So what I and my team felt is that we got to give them an opportunity to shake the dust off their cleats and get back to work. So the goal of Motivate the Game is to support every team, every athlete in the community, right? We've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of athletes, a few teams. We're not pigeonholed to one team, which is why I never wanted to kind of start a team, right? Motivate the Game is supposed to be bigger, not bigger than the game, but we're supposed to be looked at as a part of it, right? Sure. So we want athletes to be able to come to us to get the support that they need and to be able, one of the things we talk about in Motivate the Game is our slogan is to help athletes recognize their mental health needs, maximize their mental performance, and utilize the skills on and off the field. So we recognize, maximize, and utilize those things. And we'll get into more of that. But it was amazing to be a part of to put on the combine and see these kids perform and to do what they needed to do and to just be surrounded by mental health support, have therapists be able to pour into them, just to do something that was so unique for our area.
Yeah, and I was going to say, speaking of Motivate the Game, and coming out to that combine, it wasn't, I didn't see footballs at first, right? So I'm thinking, I was like, all right, this is different. This is special what he's got going on here.
So what we do is we use experiential exercises, right? When we think about how people learn, we learn best through metaphors and analogies. So one of the biggest parts of Motivate the Game is we incorporate metaphors and analogies for athletes to learn without knowing they're learning, right? So what we did, and that was an activity that we were able to create, and we've gone around the schools to do it, where we call it paper privilege. And we talk about the opportunity for the opportunity you were afforded, how you had very little to do with it, but you have everything to do with moving forward and how you approach the life and how you treat those around you, right? Because it's so much bigger than sports, right? We say that all the time. So we use those experiential activities, and we have hundreds and thousands of them, and we help athletes learn about themselves, social and emotional learning, understand anxiety, understand depression, understand all of those pieces and those home issues, life issues, relationship issues through those exercises. And we see it have more of an effect when we do it that way.
When you think of some of the big name athletes out there, you know, the Odell Beckham Jr., the Naomi Osakas, the Simone Biles, especially here of late, how vital is it to get into the minds of these young ones at this age? You're dealing with middle school and high school students. How important is that, considering what we've seen on a national scale, and people are kind of just coming into it and say, hey, you know, what's the problem? And we're now really learning about it.
Yeah, it's always been here, unfortunately. What I tell people all the time is that we have football coaches, we have basketball coaches, we have physical therapists, we have trainers, but no one works on the most important muscle of the body. The biggest muscle of the body is your mind. So everyone thinks that something has to be wrong with you to work on your mind. Right. But from injuries to just handling pressure, day-to-day life stressors, the mind is what handles all of that, right? And what I tell a lot of people all the time, and what my mentor told me, is that you don't see with your eyes. You see with your mind. Right, your eyes is a tool that it passes through, and then your mind helps to formulate what it sees, right? So why not work on the mind, right? So what we've been able to do is that starting young enough, we help athletes as young as 8 understand the importance of social and emotional learning, as I talked about before, mental fitness, just mental health literacy is a huge thing we talk about. We're trying to be a preventative program, right? So we want to prevent mental illness, or also be able to help athletes recognize it before it becomes an issue. So if I can talk to you about what depression is, then when you have those symptoms, you're like, man, I feel depressed. And then you know how to utilize what we've taught you to either self-evaluate or how to reach out to the services that you need.
That is huge. I mean, it's one thing to not know what you're dealing with, but another thing to know and then know how to address it. That's huge. What I love most about what you're doing is you're going around, right? You're not stagnant. I mean, I've seen recent photos. You're at football practices for teams. Teams have you come out, coaches have you come out, and really tap into those things. What are some of the things that you address to perhaps some of the teams out there that they can work on as togetherness? Because as you mentioned, it's all about unity.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm realizing is that in this day and age, our coaches and our parents, they're not trained or they're equipped to be able to handle what these athletes and these young people are facing right now, right? So what I want to help is to help coaches get back to coaching, right? We want coaches to get into the X's and the O's of what they do. Now, a great coach is going to support their team and do all those things, but I'm a professional who this is all I do. I tell people all the time, the only thing I'm good at is helping people, right? I played a little bit of football, played in college, but now I realize that all I was destined and created to do was help people. So what I want to do and what I bring to team practices, and I'm hoping that more of our teams around the community would tap into what we do, is we have to train coaches. That's one of the big things we do. We want to train coaches on how to also recognize the mental health needs of their team, maximize the mental health support within their school, within the community, and then utilize the skills to create a culture of care on their team, right? Because teams are designed, and football players and sports and athletes, basketball, soccer, they're all looked at as these warriors or these tough individuals, or we just look at the athlete. And it's so much more behind the athlete that within all these hours of the days, we want to help coaches be able to understand their athlete more, understand and be self-aware of their coaching style and what they do. It's so many more things that we do. And also with parents, helping parents be able to navigate and understand this teenage athlete that they have and the pressures that come with it. So being able to provide them some insight with where they're at and what's going on, man. Like I said, I'm so passionate about it. I may be giving away too much, but I'm super passionate about what we're able to do. But it's so unique. As I said, it's so different.
It is.
And to be, and that's why I wanted to start it here, right? When Good Counsel started, I said I wanted to create the rock in Roanoke that creates the ripple effect of mental health support across Virginia. Right? Like that's how I saw it, because we're small enough, but we're located enough in a perfect location that we can start it here and it can ripple across the state. But we got to be innovative. We can't be scared to not try new things. And that's why I love programs like you're putting on, so that we can talk about and get people to understand more about who we are and what we do, so not to be worried about it.
No, you know what I love most about, helping coaches and helping parents is the example that sets for the young ones to say, hey, you never stop learning. You're always evolving, and you're always constantly teaching and taking in knowledge to help further yourself and the others, right? It's a lovely wheel. I love it, man.
I love it, yeah. We do programs and training programs called Mentally Fit Coaches. We have mentally fit parents that we're going to be working into. These are all things that we're just trying to shine light on what we do, because mental health is where it is. And I say mental health, a lot of times I've had mentors, other people say, why you say mental health so much? Because I want to be blatant about what we're working with, right? There's a lot of coaches out here and trainers who are doing wonderful work that are working on the mental toughness and the coaching side. I'm a licensed therapist, right? I'm fully licensed in what I do. So my goal, this is what I do, right? So I really want to shine light on the mental health and the importance of it, but also the mental performance that I would love to tell you a little bit about.
Tap into that.
So our goal is to, there's Jason Fulco is one of my great mentors out of Arizona. He has a certification program that allows me to where he's one of the only cognitive gurus in the country, where he trains athletes on the cognitive side, right? And we focus on 5 principles: brain speed, attention, intelligence, memory, and awareness, right? We focus on those things along with reaction time. We focus on those pieces within our training. So imagine working with athletes, helping them to their brain speed to be that much quicker, their decision-making process to be that much faster, without having to hurt their joints, without having to make them run 1,000 sprints. We want to partner with training programs where we don't want to take away from the physical side. We want athletes to be able to go to their physical trainer, then come to us for the mental side and the mental performance. Because the truth of the matter is, you can't simulate game speed. right? So I don't care how fast or how hard you run in practice, you can't simulate game speed. But the cool thing about the brain is that the brain doesn't know the difference between a game, being in a game, or being in our activities that we do. So we use our activities and some of the cognitive drills that we have to put the brain in these high pressure situations to make you make a decision, to make you enhance your memory, to make you work on all of those pieces. Man, it's going to be amazing how we're going to mix the world of mental health, mental performance, cognitive training, along with social and emotional learning.
Man, that is huge. That's covering a lot of people and a lot of things that a lot of people need at the same time. You mentioned you're very passionate about it. Let's touch into the personal a little bit. You mentioned you went to the Franklin County High School. What kind of got you on this journey, with athletics and really want to find your purpose in helping people?
Absolutely. I didn't start playing organized football until I was in 8th grade, right? 8th, 9th grade. I always get it mixed up somewhere around there. And honestly, but God bless my grandmother. I lied to my grandmother, right? When I went out, because I thought I was a basketball player, so I went out and I said I was going to math tutor. My grandmother was very protective over me, so I went out for football. For the whole season, my grandmother thought I was at math tutoring after school, right? But
you were getting some kind of number.
Yeah, I was, right? And my math grades never improved. I would have thought she would have saw that. But what I recognize is that, growing up, I dealt with a lot of my own family issues. Mother, I love my mother to death now, but my mother was in and out of prison my entire life. Absent father, love him still to this day. We've been able to rekindle some of those things, but all of that stuff, I went to sports and I was trying to find that escape, right? And what I realized was it was the first time in football where somebody called me a leader, right? Somebody saw something great in me. I'll never forget, I went out, I didn't know nothing about football, and went out for football practice, and Coach Hill and my quarterback coach back then, I was going out to play wide receiver. I didn't know what positions were. I went out and he said, "You're going to play quarterback." I said, "What? I don't even know how to throw a football," right? But what came with it was leadership opportunities. What came with it was someone expecting and putting things on my shoulder that's what all I needed was to realize, like, what I'm going through isn't for naught, right? So I use sports in a great way, but in mental health, we have these things called defense mechanisms. And now after I've gotten my degree, I realized that I use sports as what we call sublimation in the mental health field. It's one of the better defense mechanisms, but sublimation is when you don't face head on what you have to deal with, but instead you use something positive to shield you from having to deal with it head on. And so many of our athletes, including myself, I never dealt with the things that I was going through. I just used sports to run away from it, right? So throughout my childhood, I used sports, ended up being, okay at it, right? I rode the wave as long as I could, and ended up, being able to earn my scholarship at Hampton University, and being able to do some big things, being able to be around some great men, right? I call myself a sponge, right? Because growing up, we were in the church a lot. So a lot of the things that I learned, I had to soak up from everyone around me. Coach Millard Vining, who was my coach back in high school, he poured a lot into me, right? He took a lot of time and took this scared little boy and created, who I am today, and it just allowed me to see that. So it was a lot of peace, a lot of people along my journey. The great Joe Taylor, coach at Hampton University in the College Football Hall of Fame, he saw something in me. All of these people throughout my journey saw these things in me, and the only way I can pay them back is by using what they gave me and giving it back to these kids. So I hope they don't get me for copyright infringement one day, because I know I'm using a lot of that stuff, man.
No, that is awesome. And what I love most, and I touched on with a lot of people, is the community, right? It takes a village to keep everybody, and especially the young ones, on the straight and narrow. How much, looking back and thinking back on that, how much does it really touch you when you think back of just how many people wanted to have a hand on your life and wanted to see you do the right thing?
Man, so often I tell a lot of the athletes that I work with is that a lot of the times the way that you know you have a destiny is when you either keep getting in trouble or there's always these people who got their hand on you, right? And a coach always told me also is that if I'm yelling at you, that means I love you. That means I see something in you. So I'm honored and I'm beyond blessed to even make it to this point where I can see that, right? It takes a long time. It took me a long time to even see that. I don't want to, say that I've been on the straight and narrow this entire time. Sure. But
we evolved.
Yeah, those coaches and those mentors and those people in my life planted so many seeds in me that with my faith and with my praying grandmother and with all those people in my life, those seeds were able to grow over time, right? And now we're in the opportunity that now with them fully grown, now I'm trying to throw out all those seeds. I'm trying to give them out to everybody else, right? So it's so important because I feel like that's what we put here to do, right? And not to get off on a tangent too much, but I truly feel as if our purpose in life was put here to intersect with someone else's life, right? That someone somewhere right now who's being born that can't get to where they're supposed to go until they cross paths with you. And if you decide not to stop, if you decide not to give up, then you're going to be able to cross paths with that individual and you're going to be able to deter them from wherever they're going. But that individual can't get where they're supposed to go unless you keep going. So a lot of the things that we do in Motivate the Game is we say keep going, right? Deal with it, embrace it, but keep going, right? We have to keep going because it's a marathon, not a sprint. To quote the great Nipsey Hussle.
Great Nipsey Hussle, right? Speaking of, throwing your seeds out and getting it to everybody, what's your ultimate goal for Motivate the Game, for Good Counsel LLC, 3-5 years down the road? What would you ultimately like to see with the organization?
Love it. With our overall arching theme is just to make healing possible, right? So we want more people to become aware of their mental health needs and just to have more understanding of the importance of mental health. Even if it's not with us, I want more people in our community to be able to get connected to mental health services and to see that it's not this terrible taboo thing, right? You find the right person and get connected with them. As far as Motivate the Game, I dream big, right? I wouldn't be here if I didn't dream big, right? We want to be able to connect with every high school in our community, every high school across the state, to be able to have that mental health support and be able to educate them and educate these teams and these athletes to be able to go to the next level. We want to work with the local Virginia Techs, the local UVAs, to be able to work with their players and to give them a unique training location to be able to come and to be able to mix their therapy support and their therapy needs with their training, right? So we want to be established as a go-to location to be able to support athletes in so many ways, right? Be able to go across the nation and connect with different organizations as we've started to do here, to be able to just support our athletes, support people, and start that ripple effect, like I said.
Man, that is huge. We definitely appreciate what you're doing for the community at large, for the youth of today, the next generation, as we always say. If people want to keep up with you and the organization, social media platforms?
Absolutely. So we're on all social media platforms. On Instagram is the best way, is Motivate_the Game. On Facebook is the same, Motivate_the Game. Please check out motivatethegame.com. Check us out there. We have an amazing mental health sports summit coming up October 10th. It's a virtual summit. We're doing a virtual summit. We're going to have some amazing speakers, some local coaches, some former athletes be able to chime in, and we're going to have coaches and parents. So please go to motivatethegame.com. We're going to have the landing page where you're going to be able to register. It's a free event. Our goal is to bring awareness to mental health in sports and in our community. So we're going to have some amazing speakers, amazing opportunity to get connected and understand even more of what we do. And then also we've connected with the B3 movement, Bridges Over Barriers here in Roanoke.
Absolutely.
With Mr. Small, and we're putting on a powder puff game to bring breast cancer awareness and to raise money for breast cancer awareness in the community. So we're going to be putting together a women's flag football game.
That's awesome.
And we're going to
awesome.
Team Motivate the Game is recruiting right now. So if you want to get with us, email us at motivatethegame@gmail.com. And it's going to be a great opportunity on October 30th to be able to use sports to bridge the gap into so many areas, man.
Man, we love it. We love everything you're doing, everything you're tapping into, man. That is awesome. Daniel Brooks, the one and only, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here on Around the Way with EJ. As he mentioned, tap into what they got going on. It's a lot of goodness. It's a lot of greatness. We definitely appreciate you for joining us, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, boss.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
good
sir.
to see you, brother.